Good afternoon. Welcome to the Alkalign Lifestyle School. I am your guide today, Fidel Snooker II. I will be speaking to you guys about something that's very powerful, and I want y'all to take some notes and also do some self-awareness and self-reflection to see if this is something that you have an issue with in your own life. What we're talking about today is going to be pain and pleasure association, and overall how pain and pleasure association affects a person, a relationship, and just, two people in general. What does it do and how does it affect somebody in this case? So to start off with this pain and pleasure relationship, what I'm going to really pinpoint is the fact that people seek to obtain pleasure, and they also focus on avoiding pain. But this is the problem with this pain and pleasure association. If you're not aware as to who you really are on the inside, and as to why are you here, and you don't ask these powerful questions about who am I and things like that, you're gonna associate the wrong things in terms of pain and pleasure. So I'm gonna give you a few examples, and you can, look at it in your own life and see if you're having the wrong pain and pleasure association with things inside your life. So first off, it's going to be addiction, and I'm specifically talking about drug addiction. So I'll put drug addiction. So drug addiction, okay, and this can be any drug addiction: sleeping pills, opioids, smoking weed, cannabis, those type of things. Are you associating drug addiction with pain or pleasure? Most people in this day that I see in this modern time, they're associating drug addiction with pleasure. And that's why they continue on the addiction path, because they associate not having their drugs as painful. So they're choosing to avoid that and choosing to seek the pleasure of going to go get high in some way, shape, or form, because that's what's making them feel good. But the only reason why it's making them feel good is because it's a band-aid for something that's they're not actually going in to go face internally, something that they have to go in to go deal with, they aren't dealing with. And this is where drug addiction causes so many problems and issues. It kills so many people's lives. It kills so many people's dreams and aspirations and goals, because they're associating the wrong thing in terms of pain and pleasure. They're associating pleasure with being addicted to drugs, and they're associating pain with not having the drugs. And this is completely backwards. If they were smarter, they would say, I get no pleasure from this. This takes away my health, my vitality, and my life, and my pleasure, and my joy. So they would, if they chose to look at drug addiction differently and says, being an addict is painful and it's hurting me, they would seek to avoid having drugs in their life in any shape or form. Okay, so this is the first example of how drug addiction and just having the wrong pain and pleasure association with something in their perception can affect them negatively, a person negatively. Next is eating. You see people walk around with pot bellies all day long, and you see people who walk around overweight. You see people walk around at every point of your day. You probably had a problem with this at some point in time, binge eating or binge, watching TVs or something like that, or shows or whatever it was. But you associated the wrong thing with eating food. You associated eating food, plenty of food, with seeking pleasure. So you found pleasure in stuffing your face and with whatever kind of garbage or crap that you could find. You found pleasure in that. Probably because in terms of eating, in terms of food is, you could connect food to sexuality because it's a sensual experience. So because people aren't getting sexual energy exchange in a how I put this, in a way that's sincere, in a sincere way, a sincere sexual experience, pleasurable experience with a partner or even yourself. If you aren't getting that, you're going to associate the food with the pleasure, and you're going to replace that. And so now all of a sudden, being overweight solely becomes mental. It's a psychological thing because you did not associate pain with feeling weighed down. You didn't associate any pain with, my belly is bloated, or you didn't associate anything like that. And so because you had the wrong pain and pleasure association to eating food, you put food on a pedestal in terms of a pleasurable experience, and you decided that the more that you eat, the more pleasure that you get. So you start to go seek out more and more food. Instead of going to go seek out exercise, because you associated pain with exercise. You associate pain with going to go jogging, going to go walk your dog, going to go do calisthenics in your room, some push-ups, whatever it is that says moving your body that to make it stronger. You associated pain with that, so you avoided the exercise, or you avoided the cardio, or you avoided going to go walk your dog, or you avoided going to go outside and go get some sunlight, or going to go ground yourself, because you were associating eating food, sitting down, watching a TV show at nighttime, whenever you just got off of a job that you hated, with seeking pleasure. That's how people become overweight, mentally, psychologically. It's not just a concept of there's processed food and these things are bad. And obviously, if you're in a certain mental state, you're going to go get the thing that is in alignment with how you're feeling at that moment in time. So you're going to go choose the food that's going to sabotage your body because you feel sabotage already on the inside. So you're associating the things that you're going to go pick up at the grocery store with literally just how you are feeling on the inside. It's all mental. So if you could change this pleasurable association to I want to feel light, and I want to feel free, and I want to have energy, and I want to eat with the circadian rhythm, meaning from noon to about 6 p.m., noon to about 6 p.m., no later than about 7 p.m. You're going to associate drinking water and hydrating yourself within the hours of 1 p.m. to 3 and 3 to 5, where your kidneys and your bladder are going to be really, really prioritized by the circadian rhythm. You're going to focus on these things and start to eat with alignment, because there's pleasure in doing the right thing. There's pleasure in taking care of yourself. There's pleasure in self-care. And the first thing I see is that people eat too much. You just eat too much. But that's because you don't have a pain or pleasure association that's correct. That's why you can't turn off the cravings, because you're craving something because you're avoiding something else. So rather than crave the bad thing and crave to go get to an all-you-can-eat buffet and laugh about it and joke about it, it's because most people just don't look at it from a perspective of going to Golden Corral or going to these places to go eat themselves into a drunken state. They don't think of that sabotage. But if you associate that with sabotage, you don't go. You don't go to all-you-can-eat buffet. You don't go to get Chinese restaurant food packed with MSG. It's literally called Chinese restaurant syndrome. That's what they call food that's been laced with MSG. So, and MSG, for those who don't know, is called MSG monosodium glutamate. What they do is they add this to food, processed food. In-N-Out Burger, Wendy's burgers, McDonald's, any kind of fast food that you can see has predominantly MSG inside of it. Those are all chemical-laden products that create an addiction response to a person. If you see In-N-Out Burger at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, packed with people right there on the line for a drive-through, because they literally have drugs inside of the actual food that they call food, which isn't food at all, it's just drugs. So if you can change that response and that association of eating food to say, if I overeat and I don't exercise, that's painful. If you can associate it with that, you would seek the pleasure from saying exercising, walking every day, taking care of myself, not rationing your food to where you're starving yourself, but eating where you are satisfied. Not eating where you're in a survival state, because that also can make you overeat. The next one is going to be sleeping. Now, sleeping is really big because you cannot detoxify yourself overnight, your lymphatic system inside your brain, if you do not get adequate enough sleep. From the hours of 11 to 1 a.m., that is whenever your gallbladder begins to secrete bile and it starts the process of detoxification in terms of what you've been doing this entire day, putting inside your body the entire day. So if you can look at it from that perspective, then from 1 to 3 p.m., or excuse me, from 1 to 3 a.m., you have your liver, which is an even more powerful and very, very precise and specific organ that's used for detoxification. You need to get yourself in alignment overnight, because once your liver takes care of that organ from 1 to 3 a.m., up next is going to be your lungs from 3 to 5 a.m. That's going to be breathing, your breath. And you want to be more spiritual, more enlightened, you need to be able to get the oxygen inside your diaphragm and breathe not through your lungs up here, but all the way down through your belly and pull that air all the way up, pull the oxygen all the way up, base of your spine, top of your head. Once you wake up in the morning, that's going to be your large intestine, which is going to be right after that, which is 5 to 7 a.m., and then your stomach, 7 to 9 a.m. So literally from 11 p.m. all the way to 9 a.m. That's going to be the system of detoxification and also digestion. That literally, it's when you get up in the morning, you're going to wake up and you're going to release your waste, release your bowels, cleanse your bowels. So this is all going to tell you that association with sleeping. What happens to people? They go out, they go to the club, they go to late movies, they just don't understand. Circadian rhythm says you got to turn yourself off at a certain point in time in the day, in the nighttime. You've got to calm it down. You've got to check the screens off. You got to turn all the EMF that's coming all over the place, the wireless internet, the Bluetooths, the laptops on your, in your bed. You should never have no phones or any computers or any laptops, anything on or right next to you while you're sleeping. Get that stuff away from you. Don't fall asleep with your headphones inside. Don't even put them inside you. If I was anybody, I would tell them that the best thing for you to do is ration your time with Bluetooth headphones or headsets. Talk on your cell phone through speakerphone. And also go old school and get some headphones with a wire attached to it. You can find an adapter for your old iPhone, or for your new iPhone, you can find adapters where you can plug in headphones and you can plug in wires and you can use that, because that's much better, and that gets you, it just gets you back into a circadian rhythm. You've got to be able to go to sleep, because if you don't go to sleep, you can never recover. You will never in your lifetime be able to replace the energy that comes from you being able to sleep. And so once you can go to sleep properly with, first of all, the allotted time, and then get into a lower brainwave state, you have 4 brainwave states. You have beta brainwave states, which is going to be a waking state, which you're watching me on the screen right now. You have alpha, which is going to be like a daydreaming, kind of relaxed state. You have a theta, which is theta is going to be right before you fall asleep, so close to sleep, but falling asleep in that kind of realm, which is probably the most important time whenever you're going to bed, because then you program yourself while you go to sleep to have whatever kind of dreams you're going to have. So you need to make sure that you're playing something, affirmations, something, and you're reading or you're journaling or your meditation prior to going to sleep. But that's going to be the most important time, because if you can do that when you get into delta, which is going to be the 0 to 2 hertz, you're going to be in a deep recovery sleep. That's going to be the recovery sleep. But you've got to turn yourself off. Starting about 7 o'clock, turn yourself off. That's when you're really going to start to see, that's what they call the pericardia, which is going to be the section of it's like a container around your heart. And what you should be doing at the time of 7 to 9 p.m. is unwinding. This is some time for journaling, for meditation, for self-reflection, to have sex with your partner, to have intimate time, massage, whatever it is that you do for intimate time with yourself or with your romantic partner, just talk it out, whatever. You start to calm yourself down. And this time is whenever you begin to unpack yourself, because you have sleep. But people associate, again, they avoid the sleep because they avoid they're avoiding the pain of going to bed early, which is crazy. Because if you understood how powerful sleeping was, you would find 0 pleasure with staying up late. Nothing great happens after midnight. I'm just being real with you. Nothing really great happens after midnight, unless you're sleeping. Because if you're sleeping, then you're gonna see something that's gonna be really great. But if you're living in misalignment, there's no pleasure from you missing out on laying yourself down at nighttime when you're supposed to. There's gonna be a differentiation in energy once you figure out that sleeping is priority, and you should prioritize pleasure. You should associate pleasure with getting adequate enough sleep, and pain with not getting enough sleep. You know, I hear all the Mamba mentality guys and the, you know, the athletes, the pro athletes, or the business people telling you gotta be working. You know, you gotta wake up, you gotta be working. Yeah, sure, you know, but you gotta be sleeping first, because you need to have quality work. The quality work comes from the quality of your energy. If you aren't sleeping and you're trying to wake up and go get coffee, which is also is criminal, because coffee is as toxic as it comes. If you're gonna try to go to stimulate yourself for something that's not real, unreal, or poisonous to your body because you did not focus on getting enough sleep prior to that, so you're trying to band-aid yourself, you become then you become an addict. That's what happens to you. So what I'm expressing to you is just prioritize unwinding. 7 p.m. Don't get up late to go eat food. Because then if you have drug addiction, if you're smoking weed, you may have the munchies. You get up at 1 o'clock in the morning because you need to go get something to eat. That's not true. So these 3 things right here I just named are all intertwined. And then we'll name the 4th one after that, which is working. But let's finish. So if you can associate sleeping with pleasurable experience, unwind at 7 p.m., fall asleep in between 9 and 11, you just lay it down. Get up at 6. I mean, you'll be fine. You'll be great. And you focus on pain of staying up late. Pain is trying to stress your brain out to get answers over and over again at after hours, and just it's too much. You gotta call it a day. You gotta call it a day. You have to know when to quit. When you know when to quit, you know when to cease, when you know when to just, you know what, disconnect yourself, you're gonna feel so much better, because your mind will be able to go back. It's like having your like a ball underwater. You're holding it underwater because you're trying to stress yourself out the entire time. If you just relaxed, it bounces right back up, because that's just how it works. That's how your energy works. When you release the control of something, all of a sudden you get that pleasurable experience again. So now let's go towards working. People, and this can also be in terms of addiction too, because people will also, they'll leave what's troubling them and they'll say, I need to go put in some more work. I need to go to the gym at midnight. I need to go run. I need to go do something, because write another book, or I have to stress my brain to get something done because I gotta make money, because time is money, or whatever people say, which is completely fabrication. Because if somebody said they give you $1 million right now today, you die tomorrow, you would say, no, you can keep your money because I'd rather have my life. So time is not money. So working or overworking is ridiculous. But people have attributed pleasure to working because somehow they think that they're going to get some sort of confirmation, or they're going to get some sort of, not even just confirmation, but they're going to get some sort of affirmation from someone. And that's where it's like, no, you don't need that affirmation from somebody else on the outside. You need it from yourself on the inside. You've been working. You've worked hard enough. You've worked and you've been doing what you're supposed to do. And if you know what you're supposed to do, you know how you're supposed to do it, and you're doing it the right way, you understand if this is how you're supposed to be. You don't have to overwork yourself in order to get some sort of confirmation from somebody that you're good at what you do. You do not need to do that. And once you understand that it's the quality of your work, if you can work intentionally, you can work smarter, not harder, then you don't have to go 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. You don't have to do all that. And trust me, when I brought up the Mamba mentality, Kobe said if he can get up at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock and work out, and then come back from 7 to 9 and work out, and take a nap, and come back from 11 to something and work out again. It's like, hey, look, I get it. But if y'all don't understand meditation, you can also train yourself by closing your eyes and doing it, and rehearsing a movement, or rehearsing a book, or an audio or something that you've watched or something that you've read. You can rehearse that in meditation. You don't have to physically tax all of your energy and lose sleep just because of the simple fact that you think you're going to be getting ahead by struggling your way forward. That's not actually the most efficient way to do something. Just because somebody did it, yeah, he may have been successful at doing it, but I guarantee he wishes he would have had that back and he's still here. You know, everyone who was a fan, I hope that you will understand you don't have to, get a dead battery just because of the association to the circus on the outside. That's not it. The matrix of space is what you actually want to be, not the circus where people put in front of your face for distraction purposes. You have to understand that working and overworking is not a pleasurable experience. It's a painful experience. So if your association with working is that it's a pleasurable experience, you only go to focus on that. You forget about your family, you forget about relationships, you forget about everything that's important. Because, listen, when you die, you can't take the house with you, or the car with you, or the money with you. You got to spend it or give it away. You got to do something. So when you look at it, you're going to say, okay, so overworking myself is not going to be the thing that I need to be focused on. I need to be focused on associating working smarter, which means I can set up some time, some discipline with myself, some boundaries with myself, so I don't overdo it and I don't hurt myself. I used to be the person to be in the gym all the time. I got to stay in the gym, no matter what. I'd have a workout or a tryout or with a team, and I'd be like, I got to stay up all night. I got to go to the gym and get some more shots up. No, man, you already prepared yourself. There's no need to be cramming the day before, the night before. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I'm telling y'all can't get that time back. And here's where we go up next with time. Associate your time freedom with pleasure. Associate your time freedom with pleasure. Okay? Some people can't sit still. And this is gonna be right into meditation. So we're gonna combine these two, time and meditation. People can't sit still, so they associate pain with sitting still. But if you just took the time and say it's a pleasurable experience, I'm transcending. I'm becoming familiar with myself. That's what meditation means. If you look at it from a pleasurable experience perspective of sitting still, being still and knowing that I am God, all of a sudden you change your association with meditation and pleasure and pain. You say, I need to associate taking time to myself in my head with my eyes closed so I can get, there's a concept that I heard this in one of Earl Nightingale's audiobooks. He talks about a gentleman that used to sit for ideas. He would sit still in a dark room with a pen and a pencil or pencil and a notepad and his eyes closed in a dark room, and he would sit for hours and he would sit for ideas, meaning he would sit until ideas came to him on how to run his business better and serve the people better in a new perspective, something that has not been done before. So he would just ask simple questions. How can I serve him better? How can I do better for him? And he would literally sit for ideas. He would give himself time and he would meditate on these things and these concepts. If you don't associate pleasure with sitting still and getting into yourself and becoming aware of yourself, you don't ever make time for it. You associate pain with sitting still, it's because you haven't done something for yourself to release that anxious energy, to release that energy that's causing you a disruption. You've got to associate pain. Pain, it's painful when I don't meditate. It is painful. I mess something up. I will fuck up my entire day. If I do not sit still and meditate before I start my process, or I get up in the morning early, I start immediately I start investing. I start going right to some screens. I start going and reading and researching and writing and then putting out offers and things and putting out content. Look, I can't do any of that in an efficient manner if I do not sit still, take the time to myself and meditate and get myself right and create my day the way I want to create my day. If I don't do it, it ain't gonna happen. So associate time and meditation with pleasure. Seek that time, seek that. Don't associate pain with sitting still so that you avoid meditation and you avoid taking time out for yourself. Don't do that. That's a complete backwards association. So up next, and so we talked about smoking already and alcohol, pretty much. But I'll touch on alcohol before I touch on sex. So alcohol associated with pleasure. I know this because my father used to drink. I don't know if he probably still does. Actually, yeah, I don't know. But when I was growing up, he drank. And I knew he associated this with pleasure because he was always stressed and always in his head about something. And I guarantee it was because of the relationship that he had. We'll get into relationships and stuff in a moment. But right now, people who focus on alcohol. So you can go to happy hour. You can go into a bar right now. You can go on Sundays. They have happy hours all afternoon. People literally go to church and then they go to happy hour. It's mind blowing that they think that that's okay. That they can go out and say, I'm repenting for whatever I've done, and then go back and do the same thing that they just did. It's the mind, and then like nobody saw it. Like they didn't know. So they're literally going to go say, oh, God, forgive me. And then you go back and do the same thing that you just asked God to forgive you the first time. I don't understand how that's a thing, but it's a thing. I'm telling you. So people who go to happy hour, it's not happy hour, y'all. Any alcohol that touches your body inside your system is going to corrupt your system. It's going to cause chaos. It's going to go right to the solar plexus, which has 12 cranial nerves inside of it. 12 cranial nerves attached to 12 systems in your human body. Cardiovascular, reproductive, endocrine, etc. Every single one of them will be affected by this alcohol, which is why as soon as it goes into your body, you can't see straight anymore. The room starts moving and they pull you over for a DUI, tell you to breathe into this thing. You can't even walk on a straight line because your cognitive function is so distorted because you drank this damn alcohol. You associated pleasure with going to go get drunk. How crazy is that? That's literally poison. And you put it inside your body. You seek pleasure to put poison inside your body because you must not love yourself. 100, I'm just telling you 100%. If you don't associate pain with poison, then you got a problem. It's just like drug addiction. Because alcohol, you can look at it as drug addiction. You can say it's a drug. So we'll just attach it to drug addiction. Once you look at alcohol and weed and sleeping pills, opioids, painkillers as drugs, you don't associate not having them as painful. You associate not having them as pleasurable because now you're freeing yourself from attachment, from bondage of something. People are literally slaves to the bottle of alcohol that they go get. They're slaves to a bottle of alcohol. They can't go out in social place without drinking a drink. So you're a slave. You can't even go out and tell somebody hello in a club because unless you have drinks at your hand. So you have to have that. You have to have something that's telling you that you're free because you can't tell yourself by yourself that you're free already. It makes no sense. When you think about it, you're just a coward, unable to face yourself, unable to face your true self and become your authentic self. Once you look at it from that perspective, you now associate pleasure with leaving the bottle alone. Let me skip happy hour today. Let me skip going to the bar today. Let me skip going to go get the wine at night. Let me skip trying to drink myself to sleep. It's all because of you aren't associating yourself with the creator of your own life. You messed yourself up. Let's keep going. Last, we're going to talk about sex. People associate sex with pleasure, but they do it in a bad way, in a toxic way. And the reason why I'm saying it's a toxic way is because you can associate sex with an addiction. Because people are sex addicts. Some people are so addicted to having sex that they don't even understand that there's pain in having too many sexual partners because you're opening up too many portals of energy and entanglement with the outside world. They're gonna keep on coming in. Your mind's never gonna be at ease when you open up so many portals of entanglement. Because when you have sex with somebody, you combine yourself in terms of vivesica. So you give half of yourself to someone and then you keep half of yourself. There's your portal. So if you can't understand forgiveness, look at things from a higher level of emotional intelligence, meaning that you understand yourself in response to somebody else, you're going to harm yourself by having too much sex. But then some people also live in relationships where they have no sex at all. And they don't realize that sex controls your vitality. It controls your actual energy. So some women, you can be married in a sexless relationship. And you can be married or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, in a relationship for years and not have any sex at all because your wife or your partner says, I'm too tired, but I don't want to do it. It's like a chore. And they're assigning pain from doing it. So women can say, well, it's painful, it hurts, I don't care to do all that, and it's like they're forgetting that, well, your man needs to have sex with you in order to be able to connect with you. But you're saying, well, it hurts, and you have a problem with self-care. You also have a problem with thinking that it's a chore. It should be a pleasurable experience for you to give pleasure to somebody else that wants that pleasure. So that's a backwards where you're looking at it from a pain and pleasure association. They're associating pleasure with not having sex because they're saying, I would rather avoid it because I count on my hands. And I'm telling you this from experience. I dealt with it many times with many partners that I had, whether I looked great or not, whether I aesthetically looked beautiful or handsome or not. They just weren't attracted to it, or they did not like the concept of having sex because they associated something in a negative way to sex. They associated something that was bad, or they had maybe a past relationship that they took in. When you have sex with somebody, you're having sex with their entire roster of people that they've had sex with. I know it may sound awful to somebody, but hey, look, I'm just being real. So if you can't clean that energy up around your sexual experiences and your partners, you're gonna be giving that same sexual energy and association of sex to your next partner. So women, don't associate pain with sex. Associate pleasure with sex because your man likes it. Your partner enjoys it. And I'm sure he wants to be with you. And I'm sure he wants to be able to make you feel good. So if you can change the association with sex and say it's pleasurable for me to seek this at 7 to 9 p.m., your pericardium, the cover of your heart. You're journaling, you have sex, you have intimacy time with your partner. This is a great time for you to do it. So that's your pain and pleasure association. Those are your examples for that. We're gonna move on to specifically about relationships. So now, talking about relationships, we're gonna see why do people have such conflict and how do these conflicts come about? Well, there's two polarities that I'm going to talk in specific about in terms of responses. And I call them survival responses and how people deal with each other on that scale in terms of, fighting and appeasing or freezing and flight. So in your relationship, everyone's had this where they've had a partner and some kind of thing arise, some situation happened, and you have a choice where choice number one, you can say, I'm going to fight or I'm going to appease. If you decide that you're going to fight, usually that's the most common one that I'm seeing is, men want to fight or argue with their spouse or wife, woman, or they're choosing to just bow down and enable. So you can say appease or you're going to say enable in some capacity. Sometimes people do need to fight. Sometimes you need to stand up for yourself. And I see a lot of weak men at this moment that aren't able to do that because they can't stand up to their own self and their own addictions. If you can't stand up to your own self and your own addictions, you can't stand up to your partner. I guarantee it. You have a problem standing up for yourself and what you believe in, what you want and what you desire, or speaking out what you want and what you desire because you haven't done it for yourself. And so then you decide that you're going to appease. But this is the issue. Say you go to a job that you can't stand. You have a boss or a manager that's awful, right? And he or she treats you like crap. You come back home and you desire to fight everybody around you because of what you have to deal with the majority of your day. So you may come back and you may decide to kick the dog, right? Beat your kids, yell at your spouse for no reason. Nothing happened where they didn't do anything to you to warrant that behavior from you. But because you got treated in this way, you had to appease somebody from the higher up that you couldn't stand, you came back and took it out on everybody else. Because you didn't do what you were supposed to do for yourself, which is basically use your mind and your imagination in the right way. You didn't follow the golden rule perspective. You do to others what you would have them do to you. You didn't do that. That's the first response of fighting and appealing. Sometimes fighting will get you saved. Sometimes fighting will save your life. Fighting will get you what you actually desire to have. And appeasing won't let you do that. If you're in competition, if you're playing a sport, if you're trying to give your best, you need to fight. But in some cases, appeasing would be a better thing. If you're in this police situation where you're being detained or something like that, you don't want to fight against the police. You don't want to go to try to show off something. You don't need to do all that. Just get home safe. I've learned that over time. It's bigger than me. Me making it home is bigger than me feeling like I'm the macho man. It's bigger than me. So I stopped thinking like that because it was wasting my time. So sometimes appeasing is going to be a good thing for you. But you have to know when that response is appropriate. So if you've been a pushover and been a yes man or a yes woman, your entire life, and you've never gone in to say something that can help someone or spoke up and done things that can, expressed what can help somebody and stop enabling somebody to walk all over you or treat you bad, and you stand up for yourself. You have to fight back. The number 2 response is freeze or flight. People have had situations where they've been called out or called up and they freeze. They don't know what to say. They literally have a freeze, like they're just frozen, or they're so riddled with fear on the inside. You'll hear about these things in terms of like rape and situations where they were just so afraid that they just froze and then somebody took advantage of them. This again has to come to where you need to fight. You don't need to freeze. You don't need to sit there and punish yourself and say, I gotta just take that. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't. You instead have to say, let me change this response, because if I freeze, I don't ever say what I need to say. I don't ever speak up for myself. I just get talked down to and just get treated bad. I never stand up for myself. You can't do that. You gotta look at it and say, the creator on the inside wants you to express. It'll hear you, but you gotta understand that how you treat yourself is how everybody else is gonna treat you on the outside. So if you don't have any boundaries set, if you don't have any love or self-care for yourself, it's gonna be a problem. So people then say, I'm gonna flight. I'm just gonna run. I don't wanna deal with that. I don't wanna sit here and hear that. I don't wanna take that from this. I don't wanna hear anything else about me. But it is about you. But I don't wanna hear anything about that. I don't wanna hear anything about that. And then they put their hands up and then they just walk off. That's not how you do it. You have to sit there and take that. Sit there and actually have a discussion that's gonna get you to go where you need to go. If you have not been producing, if you have not been performing admirably the way you're supposed to perform, the way that you know you're capable of performing, and somebody tells you, they call you out, they call you up, and you just get up and I don't want to hear that. No, that's not the right response. Look at your response and say, is this going to be painful to you? Is it going to hurt you in the end? In terms of relationships, yes, it's going to hurt you in the end. Because a man may be coming to his partner and saying, honey, I feel overwhelmed. Hey, lighten up a little bit. But then the woman may say, well, you're being weak and you're this and you came to me with that. And it's like, okay, don't need to do any of that. And then same thing, vice versa. The woman comes to the man and say, hey, you're sloppy, you're fat, you're lazy, you haven't been taking care of yourself, you need to get up and focus and lock in. I don't want to, I don't want to. Same thing. It's on both sides. It's interchangeable. But when you can start to understand that how you play a role and how you become a team, you can talk to yourself and be able to reach your goals. Because you now know that I'm this, you're that. Okay, I'm 100% on this, you're 100% on that. So a big thing that people have in terms of relationships is just in argument. And just an argument. Most people choose to fight when they don't need to. So if you are fighting when you should be appeasing, you have got to become aware of that. Sometimes you should say, okay, you know what? Hey, you're right. And leave it at that. Start to do this one thing. Always hear when somebody speaks to you, your partner speaks to you, and always put the words I feel before that. They might say I love you. And then if you put the words I feel, I love you in front of that, you realize that everything is constantly changing. In about an hour, they may feel like they hate your guts. So you never take it personally in that regard. You never associate like they're controlling of your happiness. Because you're saying, well, they felt like this at this moment, they can feel like this at this moment. It can be constantly changing. It's okay. You know, when you can look at it from that perspective, you shift your perspective. So put I feel before everything that someone says, and you'll never take it personally. That's a key for you guys. So sometimes you fight whenever you should appease. Sometimes you freeze, okay, and then you run. Those responses you've got to look at and look. Sometimes you better get out of there. Lion's chasing you. You know, somebody's chasing you, trying to get at you or cause you some harm. You need to run. You know, they may have a gun, you don't. Okay, you gotta go. You know, I've been in situations too, but in most cases, freezing, and this also, you have to look at for the example of what's the argument about? What's it in context with? The majority of all of it can be solved from emotional intelligence and just understanding how to restrain yourself from causing any more commotion. So that's the second part. Now we're going to introduce polarities. So polarities that you can say, okay, man, woman, right? Male, female, yin, yang, positive, negative. Okay, we're controlled by the sun on the outside, women controlled by the moon cycle. Okay, all right. Well, it's just polarity. So all this is basically what we call biogeometry. And this is how biogeometry works for relationships. So now let's talk about subconscious behaviors. These subconscious behaviors, these are basically installed responses, reactions that you have, and they result from parent-child relationships. So let me get you to use your mind in this case. You imagine character roles for people in your life. So you can say, this person is my supplier. This person is my, therapist. This person is my fun person that I go out to hang out with when I want to have fun. You give everybody roles, but you punish people for not playing their roles that you assign to them. You punish people when they don't participate in their roles. And so if you saw your family or your mom and dad arguing and fighting all the time, there's a character role for that. And you assign that character role to somebody, usually it's going to be your romantic partner. And you decided that you're going to basically take what you've seen subconsciously, downloaded, and you're going to play that role, that character role inside your own life. Because see, as a child, you use toys to play out your traumas. That's what kids do. I didn't actually grow up with my mom and dad for my entire childhood. So I got to go out to explore a lot. So most of my action figures that I had, I really got to read a lot of comic books, stuff like that when I was younger. I started reading fairly early. So I just got to see a lot of imagination, and I got to imagine things I wasn't drawing out in terms of what I see my mom and dad do. I didn't really see my mom and dad interact that much, until like after 4. So it helped me because I understood that they have their own relationship and it's separate from me, I don't have to download his reactions or behave the way he behaves or behave the way she behaves. I can create something different. And I had a lot of friends that had very harmonious relationships, and I got to see how it worked. And I got to see people who were very successful and how they treated each other and what they did. And I understood it, and I loved that. I gravitated towards the one that felt better. It wasn't the one that I saw at home. You know, and it's not to undermine my mother or father. It's not, because they probably had that taught to them, you know, when they were younger. Same thing with your mother or father. So what you should not do is blame them because they don't know. But what I'm saying is you're punishing people for not playing their role that you assigned to them, because your parents gave you a template on how to get your needs met, how to get food, how to get money, how to go get a job, how to go, you know, get a relationship. They teach you everything based on how they were as young people and how they were in their adult life. They may not know the answers. So you gotta understand that that's where attaching subconscious behaviors from your parent-child relationships, you've gotta look at those relationships and look at those people and say, is this how I really want to be? Because it may not be what you really want to be, okay? So again, focus on the template that they've given you and see, is this actually working for me? Am I working too hard to get my needs met? Am I working too hard because I'm thinking I need to appease my parents, or I need to appease somebody, you know, in that regard? Or am I doing this because I created this program for myself? The majority of it is going to be a subconscious program that you downloaded from your parent-child relationship. So always look at it and say, if you didn't have a harmonious relationship with your parents growing up, and you didn't have that freedom, and it didn't give you that encouragement, and they didn't tell you, you know, there's no limits, and they didn't teach you how to go be a person that can go answer and solve problems, you may have a problem. That's just in all truth. So up next after that is going to be your energy mirrors your mental and emotional state. Your energy mirrors your mental and emotional state. So what this means is, and this is all brought about in terms of research done by Wilhelm Reich. If you understand what the orgone energy is, it's the blue energy field that surrounds the earth. And what Reich said was that this is based on sexual energy expression, because all the energy is of potentiality, and it's sexual energy. And so what happens to people is they have suppression, and they have what he called armoring. He calls it armoring, where they repress sexual energy, and this is gonna look like this. It'll be like restricting your breath, and that means that you're stopping the flow of energy from going from all throughout your entire body. Next will be what's called ocular tension, like in your eyes or like in your forehead. So people who are doing this a lot, they're doing this. And that's because they literally are they're holding back from these, you know, thoughts or these memories, then they don't want to face them. So they're just doing this the entire time. And they have all this ocular tension around their eyes. They have all of this resistance that they're causing themselves. So these headaches are actually caused by a refusal to accept these thoughts that are coming up, a refusal to accept what's coming to them. They're refusing it for a reason, because they think associated with letting these thoughts come up is going to bring them pain. So they're avoiding them. But they need to seek them, because if they seek them and they release them, it brings them pleasure, allows the flow to come through. After that, you'll see holding back things to say. You'll see restriction inside of your throat, almost like someone's choking you, because you are choking you, but it's you doing it to you energetically by holding back things that you need to say. This is done all the time, because somehow you thought that somebody had power over you. Somehow you thought that somebody was bigger than you or stronger than you, but they're not. Nobody is above anybody else. That's not how it works. I can love myself to infinity, because I do, you know, and you don't have to love myself the way I love myself, but I'm not gonna undermine somebody else because I think I'm walking around and I'm more special. That's not how it works. Everyone's connected, interconnected. That's how your matrix works. You're interconnected. If you believe in separation, you're not thinking in terms of a matrix like that. So you're not holding back things to say. If God gives you something inside of your mind, inside of your throat, and says, say this, express this out, say what you need to say. You free up your jaws and your throat. You stop clenching your teeth all the time. You free yourself, you know? Then you can look at painful emotions. Painful emotions, where you have painful emotions like shame, guilt, grief. This is where you start to see your chest and your heart and your gut, your digestion. This is all because of these painful emotions that you do not, again, you're associating pain with these painful emotions, but you need to face them. If you face them, if you face your fears, you release that. It's no longer withholding you, controlling you, that you have pleasure from that. So all that pain inside your chest, inside your heart attack, you're attacking your own heart, and painful where you can't digest your food, too much stress because you can't digest your food. This is where these holding back, these painful emotions come from. And then this one, your life energy. You know why you're always tired? You're always tired because you don't have no vitality. You know why you don't have any vitality? Because this is sexual desire that you've been repressing. You can thank your religion for that. You can thank your religion. You can think how anyone's taught you about sex, and you can see that the way that you're not free in terms of your sexual expression, all of a sudden your lower abdomen and your genitals are going to be affected. This is where you see, men gravitate towards pornography, and women too, because they aren't getting what they need. That's why you're not getting what you need. You're not free enough to get what you need. And it's like, listen, people are saying OnlyFans is like corrupting young minds, but that's because of all the sexual repression that they've had. They're just attempting to break free in some way, shape, or form. That's what I think this is like, a movement going on. So is it right? It doesn't matter. It's right for them. They need it. That's what they need. It's right for them. Can they get it in a different way? Maybe, but they hadn't been shown because they hadn't faced what they needed to face, because all these things holding back things to say, painful emotions. Most men don't tell the woman, I need more sex. Most men won't go to tell their partners, hey, I need to feel some more pleasure. You need to do something different, or be more attractive to me, or be more feminine. And also most women, they won't go and say, honey, you're out of shape. You're not attractive to me. I don't want to have sex with you. All because you're holding back things to say. This is why you have low energy. You have low life energy. All these things, restricting the tension, thoughts, memories. Maybe you had a bad experience, sexual experience. You're holding it on to your next partner. It ain't their fault that you had that. It ain't her fault that you had that. It's your fault. It's on you. Don't put it on them. Change that. Go within yourself and understand yourself better and change that. So lastly, we're going to associate how to be happy. What do you need to actually be happy? What do you need to actually say, this is me, and I need to have this in order for me to feel happiness? Do you need lots of money, a specific person in a relationship, a certain job? Do you need stagnation where you have to stay here? You can't move. Or do you need to have control over everything? You have to ask yourself these things. Because if you don't know what you need to be happy, it's because you did not ask yourself, what are your actual goals? What do you actually want? So relationships are powerful in this regard, because these are relationships where you have one person and then you have a second person. And then this is where you basically form, this right here is the love. This right here is the freedom. So right here is love, right here is freedom. So two people, you have half of your love given to somebody else. And then the other half is going to be your freedom. You have to love yourself and go do what you want to do and be your own person. But then the opposite half is going to be in terms of the love. So you have to ask yourself 100%, look at your partner and say, are you a match? Sexually, do they desire sex as much as you? Are they in shape to have sex as much as you? Do they like it as much as you? Do they like, are they attracted to you sexually? Emotionally, do they give you what you need emotionally? Do they fuel what you need emotionally? Do they listen? Do they accept, physically? Are they strong enough to keep up with you? Can you do things to keep up with each other? And then also spiritually, are they adapt to understand accountability? Do they know that they're creator of their own life? That's 100% how that's going to work out. So other than that, your job is to find out, literally, are you a match? And once you figure out, are you a match, then you can move yourself forward to say, do I want to have a connection with this person? Because if I choose to give half of this energy to somebody else and I'm not a match, I'm going to set myself up for failure. I'm not going to be happy. It's all you got to do. And the question that you ask is, what are your goals? And if their goals don't align with your goals, hey, it may not be a match. That's it. You associate pain with the people who aren't a match. You associate pleasure with people who are a match. So seek people who are a match. Sexually, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, you'll find pleasure. If you seek people who are not a match and you just accept whatever you get, you're gonna be going towards pain. So focus on pain and pleasure associations the right way. The main question that you do when you meet somebody and you want to have a relationship, mainly also with yourself too, is what are your goals? What are your goals? If they align, great for you. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have pleasure, successful relationship, and you're gonna focus on happiness more so than anything else. If this video helped you guys, like, share, subscribe, and until next time.